right, good morning. So there are so many friendly faces out here. Oh, thank you for having me back, and thank you to Christy and Chris for inviting me. I really appreciate it. The opportunity to speak with friends is just, it's overwhelming. You know, I really appreciate it, so thank you. So today we're going to talk about the community. The title is How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Canvas Community with me. And that's where I live. I'm only an hour from here, so I get to work remote, which is pretty awesome. For those of you that don't know me, I worked in the community college system at Lower Columbia College as Director of E-Learning and Educational Partnerships for about 5 years, and then came to Canvas just last April. I have a master's in education with an e-learning specialization, and my focus in research was around building community in the online environment. So it kind of fits with what I do now. Here's my awesome team. A lot of you know the tall one, Scott Dennis. Yeah. And then myself, Jordan, and B. Rice. So when you come into the community, you'll see us four in there a lot. A little bit about me. That's our beautiful house in Toutle, Washington. And we spent 2.5 years building that ourselves. So that's a pretty big accomplishment. These are my fur babies. They're also my office mates. The only drama in my office is the cat is in the dog bed. It's pretty cool. And he attacks my keyboard quite a bit, so that's a problem. Oh, he has those awesome Canvas sunglasses, if you notice. Yeah. So the cool thing about being done with the house and having a little more time at home now, I've been able to do some fun crafting and quilting, so that's what I do at home. And then all of you that know me know that I love the outdoors, so lots of hiking and hunting. I usually go with my dad every spring, and that's pretty special. So now that you know about me, when we come to conferences like this, we introduce ourselves and we build rapport. Why do we do that? This is where you participate. Why do we do that? Connections, networking, build community.
We learn a lot.
Learn new things. Inspire. Yeah. So when I share this intimate side of me, my goal is to build connections with you, for you to understand me as a person, for you to get to know me. And that builds that rapport so that when I talk to you about what we do in the community, I can influence your growth. You're making that connection of, oh my goodness, she quilts? I could be her friend. Or something like that. But that's what building community is. And you are all here in this room right now building community. You are at a conference with people that you hadn't necessarily met before. And you're learning interesting things about one another. Then you leave, and what happens?
Go to work.
You go to work. You're right.
So we call them up and say, help.
You can call them and say help. Yep. But I'm going to show you other ways you can do that too. So my goal really is to win you over and influence you today. So you'll have to let me know how I do after that. I'm going to break these down. Win friends, influence people. When we're talking about the community, one other interesting way that we've talked about win is we've gamified the Canvas community. So there are people that are just into those points. Cindy, are you pointing fingers? Interesting thing when you get into the community and you start interacting with the content, so you're liking people, following people, you're sharing, you're going to get points and earn those points. What do points do? Why would we gamify this community? Motivation, right, exactly. But what else? When you go into the community and you're looking at people's profile, and somebody has 5 points, and somebody has 1,000 points. It's competitive, but also, which one are you going to think has more authority or knowledge? 1,000 points. So you're building your rapport in the community by your points. The other neat thing we have are badges. So you can go into your profile and you can look at the badges, and if you click on the different badges, it'll show you how you can accomplish and gather those badges. That's really interesting if you look at someone's profile, because you can see their badges and what they've earned, and it kind of gives you an idea of where their talents and interests are. And then finally, do you guys recognize anyone on this?
Kelly.
Kelly Musin, 4th place, holy cow. But there is a ranking there, yes. So again, that kind of just shows who the talents and the skills are in the community that are getting involved and sharing a lot. So friends. And I wish they were my friends. Yeah, I'm showing my generation here too, right? Because this slide would have the friends on it. So friends are people that are geographically near you. You know, they're like-minded, you share interests. They're the people that you see every day at your college, correct? Yeah. So these people exist also in the community, but they might not be geographically near you. But they're in that virtual community, so we can look at that as well. Influence. I think that sums it up, doesn't it? So when we seek to influence here, we're seeking to help each other grow or to gain growth ourselves and people. Too often we think of our direct network when we're thinking of community. We think of the people that we're going to impact directly. The Canvas community is international now. We have Australia, Hong Kong, South America, London. So when you're involved in the Canvas community, it is global. So let's talk about how you can get started. I'm going to challenge you a little bit. So how many of you have never been in the Canvas community? Okay, a few of you. Yeah. So the trick, make sure you log into Canvas first and then go to the Canvas community. So the first challenge, if you have not been into the Canvas community yet, establish your profile. This is what we do in our online classes, isn't it? We have students go in, we say, okay, add a picture, introduce yourself, right? And we do that initial discussion. It's the same thing in the community. So you have a profile. If you haven't done this yet, please go in, start your profile, add a picture, add your title. There's even a spot for a little bio. It'll show you connections of people that you've already connected with, or you can click on people and view others to connect with. And then on the right side is the really interesting part. There's skills and expertise. So this is where you really get to set yourself apart in the community and say, these are my talents, these are my interests. And then people can go in and endorse those and say, yes, you know, Sue is very strong in library and she knows what she's talking about. So if you're looking for someone in library, that's where I would go. Then make those connections. Here I have clicked on Jared Stein's profile, and you can see over on the right it says follow. So you can follow, and you have 4 different choices of where to follow. A lot of people I will follow to my inbox in Jive, and that's just because it's easier to track what they're doing and where they're moving throughout the community. That's where I learn a lot of what's going on in the community is just scanning my inbox, and it's from following people. Anywhere in the community, if you hover over someone's name, like Kelly's here, you can do the same thing and you can follow them. So following people is one of the best ways to make connections and to start to see and gather information that's similar to what you're interested in. So this is kind of really step 1 in getting started. Build your profile and start to follow people. So next is find content and share. I broke this down into the 3 main areas of the community, so it's big. Whenever I hear any kind of criticism about the community, it's just usually that it's overwhelming. There's too much. I get in, I don't know where to go, and to be honest, I'm in it every day and I get lost sometimes. So the first area is find answers, and just to break it down for you, pretty simple. Canvas guides. How many of you use those on a daily basis? Yes. I do too. Our docs team is amazing. They actually dedicate 1 FTE every day to the community. So they put themselves on community watch in docs and make sure that those docs are always up to date. Questions. So if you ever have a question, one of the best things to do is go in and look at questions that have already been asked. You can search. And then if you don't see it, ask your question. And Kelly will probably be one of the first ones to answer it for you. No. Our coaches that we have are pretty amazing. They get in and they work hard to help answer questions. Our community can answer questions as well. We just want to make sure that there's always people in there to help out. So that's why we endorse our coaches. Oops, I missed that last one. Canvas resources. All kinds of resources here. There's training, there's sample classes, and lots of other content. So that's a great place to look. Sharing ideas. So our feature idea process is huge. There are so many ideas. We're getting 20 to 30 a day, and every single one is moderated. That means we read every single idea that you submit and move it through the process or ask follow-up questions. So if you ever have an idea and you say, wow, Canvas would really be more awesome if it did this, or I have this issue and I don't quite know how it should be solved, but let's throw it out in the community to see what other people think. That is a great way to provide your feedback directly to our product team. So a lot of you heard from Jason yesterday about the quizzing engine, and that's a lot of my job, is to interface between the feature ideas and our product managers. So I worked a lot with Jason to say, hey, here is what our community is saying about quizzes. And we mapped it all out, and he took that into the discussions that he was having with the team that designed that product. So even if sometimes it looks like there's not a lot going on the surface of feature ideas, we try to update them as much as possible. There is a lot going on in the back. Canvas Studio is where you can find our current projects. So if you click on there, you'd actually see the modern quizzing engine listed there, and it talks about the project. And then focus groups. Every once in a while when we have a big project, we'll add a focus group in the community. And that's where community can come in and ask questions about a new feature that's being developed and put into beta, and they can provide feedback in that beta stage, which is really important also to our product teams. So anytime you're in a content area like this, up on the top right, you'll see share, and you can share out any content at any time from here. So that's why I say find the content you need and share. You can send it to people within your local geographic community or even external. And our last area is groups. So how many of you are in at least one group in the community? Good. So a lot of you here would probably be interested in higher ed or the admin group, instructional designers group, and there's a lot of really interesting content being shared in there. It's another way that you can focus down the community so that you're getting into a space that is a little more directly related to what you're looking for, and it's not that big, overwhelming sea of information. So you've built your profile, you've dabbled in searching for content, and you're going to share that out to your friends. But next, all of you have amazing talents and insights and knowledge and information, and you're either keeping it to yourself or you're keeping it within your own little school or network. You can share that Here on the right, we zoom in. This is a question. So this one has been answered by a coach, but anyone that comes into the Canvas community can start answering questions. This is probably, when I was an admin, one of the best professional developments I ever did. Was I would go into the community, I would read the questions that people have, and I would work to answer them. I learned so much. And when your answer gets marked correct, you get extra points. Just a little tip there. And then here is a contribution down on the bottom to a feature idea. So feature ideas aren't just, I'm going to submit an idea and it's going to move through voting. We want people to have conversation about it. This was a great conversation, probably one of the most rich conversations we've had in the feature ideas lately. And that's about color coding. So we're pretty bold when we say we are not going to develop anything specifically differentiated by color only. And that's because of accessibility. You can thank our awesome accessibility PM for that. She's like, yes, I endorse you saying that. I went, yes. But that started great conversation of, okay, we don't want to rule out that color is cool for people that can see. But how else can we differentiate? And so there was great conversation here, and it was you in the community that had that conversation. It wasn't our team going in. So thank you to all that contributed, and we hope to see more of that. That's where you can contribute your expertise, is in questions, ideas, and other discussions that we have. So of course, we're going to keep diving deeper here. You've participated in conversations now, I hope. And what you can do next is actually build content and contribute to the knowledge base that we're creating here. This knowledge base is not for us. We are putting a lot of resources into building the knowledge base for you. So this is your tool, really, to use. And here are a couple examples of document on the top right and a blog down below. But these are individuals in the community that really have an expertise and a passion for what they do and do well. And they'll contribute documents or blog posts that tell you as the community how they're accomplishing what they accomplish. Our table this morning, we were laughing, this top one on the right is James Jones. If you've been in the community and stumbled on some of his work, it's amazing. He will look at a question that somebody posts, and overnight, I'm pretty sure he codes in his sleep. He will give you a dissertation of code and explanation of what you may encounter issues with the code and how to correct it. And it's just awesome the time that he dedicates to that. And he does it for his own professional growth, and he loves to share. So that's one example blog. This one is by Stephanie Sanders in the Instructional Designers Group, and she's just sharing information about using Google Docs for dynamic content. So there might be something that you're doing right now in your class that you think, it's not that big a deal, nobody will care. Go into the community and see if anyone's doing something similar. If they are, join the conversation. If not, share it. Build out that blog post or that document that really sets you apart and says, hey, look, this is what I do. I want to share with you. And what's really awesome is people will comment and give you feedback, and it'll make your post even better, and you'll learn from it. So last, we're taking tiers here on baby steps into the community, but there is one last thing I wanted to talk about with groups is when I showed that picture of the Big Bang Theory and your friends and the people that are probably near you in your table right now or your geographic friends or your similar network, you have access to people that you would not have access to through this community. There's one individual from Australia, Josh, I don't know if you've seen him in there. He brings some great content to the community, and he's someone that you would never be able to connect with otherwise. So one thing that you can do is expand your community out. you can meet new people and build those friendships. So we are global now, hence the map, and everybody's involved. We are starting to launch the Espanol community, so you can go in and see that as well. Yeah, pretty exciting. So this is since the beginning of our new community in April. How many of you were involved in the old community? I was. There were, I'm trying to remember Scott Dennis's stats, so hopefully he won't watch the recording and correct me, but I think he said there were about 300 people when they evaluated the old community that were really, really active. So they were contributing, participating, and they kind of realized that the old community was broken. It wasn't working. So in April, the new community launched, and since then, you can see that we're up to 61,424 users in the community.
Wow.
Yeah. And it breaks it down. So active is on a regular basis, is around 7,000, participating 3,000. When we compare our community to other community data, this is about average or above average. We're doing pretty good. But you can see the little spikes, like fall start, winter start. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So that's what I have about community. A little bit higher level. I'm happy to show any specifics if you guys have questions, or if you have questions in general. I heard there were no questions for yesterday morning's keynote, so I'm really hoping I can break that. Yeah.
This is embarrassing that I'm asking this in front of everyone, but how do you, when you're in the community replying to someone, get their name to show up with a little yellow box next to it?
Good
But it
question.
looks like it should be @mention, and I cannot make it work, and I'm just using it wrong.
So when you're replying to someone in a thread,
Yeah, and you want to say, hey, Stephanie, because I think she gets points if you reply. I don't know, but I want to do it right now. I can't figure it out.
I'm trying to run this PC like a Mac. That's not going to work. Let's see. Let's just jump into, this is dangerous. Let's jump into any, no, I'm kidding. Let's just jump into a thread here. I'm going to take this opportunity to show one thing I did show Cindy earlier. A lot of people are overwhelmed by the number of feature ideas that we have and sorting through. So if you saw when I went to the community, I clicked on ideas and then feature ideas. And if you go down, we're starting to build out a sorting hat for you that will help you identify by user, and then we'll be doing interest groups soon. But if you click on admin, it gives you a alphabetical list of features, and you can find ideas for those features. So let's just commons permissions. If I go down here and add a comment, so you should be able to just go @Stephanie and then click on her right there. Is that what you were wondering?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fills it in for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes if there's duplicate accounts, what we'll do, one of the tricks I learned is if you search for Stephanie up here, I'll open her in another tab. It'll let me, it won't. But you can actually copy her URL, and that will do the same thing. If you paste her URL into the comment, it will also mention her. Yeah. Good question. Thanks for breaking the ice. Yeah.
So I feel sort of ridiculous for asking this question too. How do you write a blog post? I have looked for it. I cannot find the button to create a blog post. I've searched for help guides on how to create a blog post. I can't find it.
Good question. I know we have it turned off in some areas. Let's go to groups, instructional designers. And under actions, you should be able to create a blog right there. So right now the blog posts are generally turned on in groups, not in the other spaces.
So you couldn't do it like attached from your account?
So he was asking if you could do it attached from your account. We don't have personal blogs open at this time. Yeah. Good question. More? Mark?
Renee, can you give us some tips on searching and looking for answers or looking for solutions to challenges we're finding?
Yeah, good question. Let's go straight into answers. So that's that find answers space, and I'm going to look at all questions, and I'll show you my trick. You could use the search bar here, which is actually a pretty cool global search. It'll give you content and people and break it down that way. What I do is I tend to go to the content section of a space. So this is what I'll do with feature ideas as well. And this way I can sort by text or by tag. So Mark, do you have something in particular you're thinking of?
No, I wish I did.
That's okay. Let's see.
API.
API?
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so API calls, and I find this easier to scan because it'll open up more choices, and then I can also keep narrowing it down for what I'm looking for. But here you can see API calls. I'm already getting API, content migrations and groups, attendance reports using API. So you could start drilling that down even more and using tags. The tags are not as strong in the question area right now, but feature ideas, we have gone through and retro tagged every single feature idea to help with sorting. So it'll help you find them that way. Does that help, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I find that global search bar is just impossible.
I find the global search bar limiting myself. Yeah. I tend to use this type of a search. These are great questions. Yeah?
Can you comment a minute for a moment about how the feature ideas work with requests?
Yes. Yeah, so the feature idea process. I will repeat the question here. I clicked on the wrong. So ideas. She was asking if I could tell a little bit of how the feature idea process works. And one thing that we know right now is that this graphic is deceiving. So we're working to change that. It kind of gives the impression that every new idea that comes in is going to flow straight through to complete. That's not going to happen. In fact, it's a pretty low percentage that ever get complete, but that's pretty common in any type of software design. So when a new idea comes in, it gets put into a holding tank, and one of our community managers or the coaches help us read through to find any duplicates, or if it's a resubmission, any other related content, and sometimes we'll ask follow-up questions. So if we're just not quite sure what the request is for, we'll ask those follow-up questions. Then, once it gets through moderation, it goes into another little holding tank that you don't see here. And that's because the feature ideas open up in cohorts. We wanted to do that because it allows you a very predictable time for when new ideas open for voting, and a predictable time for when those ideas close for voting. So when they open for voting, they're open for 3 months. They have 3 months to gather 100 or more votes. And if they do not gather those 100 votes, they are archived. If they do gather them, they go into a gathering information stage where I take those ideas to a weekly meeting with our product team and we talk about them. And they divvy them up per their areas, and they go do the research on each of those ideas. So that's pretty big. I don't know of any other companies that do that actually take user ideas and go research them that thoroughly. You know, they'll research what it entails, they'll scope it to see how long it would take and how it fits in their current projects and roadmap. And then they'll come back and they reply personally, which is also impressive. You know, you're not getting a filtered response. They're saying, okay, here's where this fits or doesn't fit, and they're being very honest. So sometimes they're a little nervous because they're throwing themselves out there. But luckily, our community has been very amazing at embracing that honesty. And you know, that's one thing that we learned from all of you is that it's okay to say no as long as we say why. So we appreciate that respect that you're giving. Gathering information, they could go one of many places. They could go archive. We have under consideration, which means it's a ways out. It might happen in the next 6 to 18 months. In development and then completed. So does that help? Okay. Yeah.
I teach at multiple colleges, and so multiple Canvas accounts. Do I have to set up multiple profiles?
No. In fact, we prefer you to set up one. Any others?
Yes.
Yes.
I saw the bear in the hunting, but the high heel on the mountain. You didn't explain.
Saw the bear in the hunting, but the high heel on the mountain. That is thanks to Sarah Griffith in the back. And her face is going to turn red. Oh, good. She worked with me in the past, and when I went on a spring hunt, she said, I dare you to take a high heel and do the Captain Morgan pose. So I did.
Very good.
Yeah. So now it's kind of become a thing. Whenever I go hunting, I pack one of my favorite heels and take a beautiful picture in the scenery. You're learning all kinds of things about me. Any other questions? Yeah.
I noticed in looking for
And I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
for solutions in searching Canvas guides that some of the videos are still based on the old UI. Is that an ongoing process?
Yeah, so the question observation is that in searching the Canvas guides, some of our videos aren't quite caught up with the new UI yet, and that is, yes, that's a process that our docs team is working hard to fix. Thank you. Great question. Anything else? Okay, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for having me and inviting me back. So have a great conference.